So hey, what's up guys, Sandeep here, and in this video I'm gonna share my interview experience that I had like few months back with JPMorganChase Bank. So the position they were hiring for like software engineer 2. So I wanted to interview for software engineer 3 position, but they had software engineer 2 positions open. So I interviewed for that. So these are the set of questions that I've already noted down and posted on LinkedIn. So if you're not following me on LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. I do post interview experience and topic related to front end. So let's come back to this. So we had initially of 3 total rounds. The first one was technical round, like 2 rounds, 2 technical rounds, one, and the last one was techno managerial round. So these were the questions. Time limit was 60 minutes. The first round consists of DSA and JavaScript. So one lead code medium question that I've already practiced prior. So I followed blind 75. So I've practiced that. And this question container with most water, you can say it's a medium tagged question. So it was the same question. So the JavaScript concept that they asked is like what stale closures in JavaScript, IIFE functions and use cases. Like how does event loop work basically, and after I explained how event loop works, he gave me some situational question based on promises and timeout, and how that will resolve to basically a follow-up questions on event loop, basically how that will work. Then he asked me questions, typically questions on APIs, not directly with APIs, but like how will you do retry mechanism and how will you cancel all API calls. Like he gave me a situational questions and I had to answer that. So one was with retry and another was canceling all API calls. So basically conceptual question he asked. He told me to write a polyfill for dot filter method that I already practiced, so that was also done. Storage handling, local storage, session storage, index DB. He asked me straightforward questions. What are those? So I have explained that. Some output based questions with this keyword promises and set timeout. Async versus differ in JavaScript. So why we use async and why we use differ. So where we should basically use async and where we should use differ. So he was asking me those type. Scenario based questions on event handling and event delegation. So majority of the question what I felt is like not a traditional definition or like bookish definition wise. Basically, even though the interviewer is asking me about do you know about this, if I am going like yes I know about that, so instead of asking me about the definition, he was giving me a particular scenario and he was asking me like how will you do that, like what are the advantages of that, how can you overcome that, so something like this. So all the conceptual things that I've written like event bubbling, event delegation, so he didn't ask me directly, he gave me a situational questions and then he asked me do you know what that is called, like that. Now the second last is like debouncing, throttling, preload, prefetch. He was asking me about optimization, and once he was asking me about optimization, I initially told about debouncing, throttling, prefetch, preload, and I also told few more points as well. And then based on those points, he was asking me counter questions on if I understood each and every thing that I said correctly or not. And at the last, like some basic HTML and CSS questions like placement of elements on the screen, what is Z index, and then positions and all of these things he was asking me. So this round went quite well. So I got positive feedback, and then and like 2 days after that I got confirmation for second round. For second round was also mainly code with JavaScript and React, this time no DSA. Again, the time limit was 60 minutes. Initial discussion we had about my current project that I'm working on and its architecture. So, and then how browser basically renders HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Basically whatever you see on your web page right from when you hit enter to an URL, for example google.com or linkedin.com, so everything gets painted onto your screen. So how that happens from right from the browser, downloading the content and then parsing it, mixing it with DOM and creating the CSSOM and then creating the render tree. So all of these things I had to explain, so I've explained him correctly, so he was like quite satisfied with it. The other questions basically on promises, async await and callbacks. Again, these are not like by definition questions, I just marked the points here. He was asking me situational based questions and not directly like what are promises. Basically he asked me about promise.all settled, so he gave me a situational question. I don't remember the exact question, but he asked me questions on promises, async await and callback, so like conceptual on those, right? And this object manipulation task with JSON one he gave me and I had to do. So I have previously practiced these sort of JSON manipulations, so I was able to do this like within very short period of time because I've practiced it earlier. Error boundaries in React and what problem do they solve, use layout effect versus use effect. These are like small questions I that I've answered. And then after that he gave me a React coding exercise. He told me few points, I noted down, and then what are the requirements requirements he told me, and I had around 30 minutes left, 30 to 35 minutes left to implement this. So these are the things he wanted. Three different tabs. He called the name, one of the Swiggy, one was Zomato, and another one was Instamart. He gave me a sample data for each of the tab, and the data was combined, like a total combination of data mixed with each other. So first task I had to do is like separate out the data based on the tabs. So after that I did, then for each set of tab, you'll get a search bar. Basically you'll have a search box or search bar inside each tab. So basically you need to reuse those search box for three different tabs, right? And based on the tab selected, you have to filter those data from that JSON that he provided initially, which I had to filter out for the three different tabs. And once I implemented that, he came up with like a question like, do you think it is a wholly optimized? Because you, on every single key press, you are like you're getting auto suggest. Now what if now you'll call an API? Currently you're just typing in and static data from a static data set, right? So that's why it's not a problem. But what if you'll call an API? Like that situation he told me, and he told me if you know any optimization that you can do. So I told him, yeah, we can use debouncing and then use that. That will be a very good optimization and like use case production scenario. So he told me to implement that, and I implemented it. And in between he was asking me few React questions, like whatever I was implementing, he was asking me why you are doing like that. So in between he was asking. So this round also went quite well because I answered most of the questions. So I was like in a positive mindset. And the day later I got a positive feedback, and my third and the last round got scheduled. So this round I initially thought it will be just a managerial round, and when I got confirmation from the recruiter itself, he told me no, that's not only a managerial, it'll be a technical plus managerial round. So I thought I said okay, then fine. Then this round got scheduled. Initially he told me walk me through the most complex React project that you worked on, what problem did you solve, and what was your ownership. Basically he wanted to know my mindset on whatever projects I've worked, and out of those what's the most complex feature I've worked on, and like what was my role in those projects and everything. Then the other question, if you had to redesign the same project which initially was implemented, and if there was any issues and architectural designs that you want to change, what was your initial mindset, that how will you do those changes? That's what he was asking me. How you structure your code with large scale application. Like he was asking me about folder structure, the features and the shared components. He was asking me about micro frontends and monolithic architecture as well. Based on inside these questions only, I conveyed those 2 points as well. Now the another question is like, how do you optimize a page rendering thousands of rows of financial data? Basically wanted to know, like if you have heavy sort of data that's coming into your front end, how would you optimize those things? So I also answered like virtualizations, pagination, infinite scrolling. Those are the typical scenarios I've asked, like counter questions, and answered those also, and he was okay with it. And then the other questions is like, how do you handle error scenarios, retry partial failures, and loading different strategies to it? So initially I took an example of whatever I have implemented in my prior projects and explained each and every single scenario one by one. It's not like you can mug it up, or maybe you can say by definition. You have to give an example. So I use my previous project example to make him understand about the error scenarios, retry partial failures, and loading strategies where we can implement for better UI UX and performance as well. Now coming to UI UX, he had a questions on web accessibility and WCAG. So basically he was generally asking me, have I worked on web accessibility, and what was my role, how I implemented it, or like how I go by implementing like web standards and everything. So it was a short question, so I've answered that also, and he was satisfied with it. And last three questions he asked me, like, why do you want to work with JPMorganChase, like and how do you handle a conflict in the team, how do you handle like tight deadlines, and there was a couple of more questions but I don't remember, but those were managerial type questions, so I didn't stress on it and note it down. Majority of the tech things that I worked on, that I was asked, so I've noted it down here. So you can go into a LinkedIn, it's my name, and then if you want to get these questions, the question is already there. So after this round got over, I got a call from the recruiter next day saying that you have cleared next couple of days actually, and then she informed me that I've cleared those round. And then after 1 week or like 5 days after that, we had an offer discussion. So coming to the point, how did I get this interview schedule? So I'll be very honest, I tried to apply for JPMorganChase like prior like 6-7 times. My resume got directly rejected. Referral also doesn't seems to work, but luckily this time I was searching for a job. My my resume was on Naukri. So what I believe is like, from Naukri they got my resume and they called me. So basically in this time, JPMorganChase, a recruiter from JPMorganChase directly called me for interviewing this position. So that's why I got to interview here. So you can go through these questions if you are actively interviewing, or you will have a vague idea on how this type of financial firms are like ask their questions, what are the mindset and everything, and based on that you can prepare as well. I hope this video will help you, and these questions will definitely help you in getting a mindset of how this type of companies will ask you questions. Maybe not exactly, but you can get a vague idea of it. I hope you guys like this video. You can give this video a thumbs up. To get this question, you can go to my LinkedIn and check it out. Thanks for watching. Bye.